Hey, Chandler Bolt here, and joining me today is AJ Osborne. So AJ, he's an SPS alumni. So work with us on his book. He's the author of a book called The Investor's Guide to Growing Wealth in Self-Storage. He's built a portfolio of over $100 million in self-storage investments with no outside capital or management over the last decade. Very impressive track record. And probably even more impressive what he's done with his book. I mean, that's just been so cool to see and watch from afar and be a small part of helping with. So AJ, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited about it.
So why you're doing real estate investing? You've got 100 million, or I don't know if you did at this point, but you got a big portfolio in self-storage. Why write a book?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It was me and my father started investing in self-storage, and we used our own money and we grew it organically, and we didn't take any money out of our business for, it was like a decade. So we didn't even pay ourselves because that money, we couldn't. We had to pay for operating capital and we had to reinvest it. And I started learning more about, I actually became fully paralyzed. And when I was coming back out of my wheelchair, I was fired from my job in the hospital. So I was fired from my job when I was a quadriplegic in the hospital. And after I got out of the hospital, I was now pulling money out of my real estate for the first time. And it saved my financial life, right? And I was like, wow, I'm so amazing I had this and everything. But two, I also realized if we're going to be pulling money out, it's going to stop our growth, and it changes what we were doing and what we're trying to do. So we knew that, all right, I'm no longer doing insurance sales. My father was going to come join me. That means he'd need to make an income too. We still wanted to reinvest. Like, it's time that we get investors, right? And then it was like, well, how do we get our name out there? How do we get investors? We feel that we really understand the subject. We feel that we're really good about it. And then I go, well, why don't we create the conditions to where people come to us, not the other way around? And the best way to do that was to let people know what we're all about, what we do, and why we think we're great at this thing. And so I wrote a book on why it was meaningful, how it changed my life and saved me financially, and how we built it to that point, and how you can too. And two, you can avoid all the mistakes that we made. You could do it fast. And so it was a pure value play, meaning we're not holding anything back. We're giving every piece of information out there. And it did incredible. Best-selling book in the industry by far, hands down. And that launched podcasts, that launched multiple other companies. And we've, tripled in size. So
that's amazing. Oh, tripled in size. So I'm assuming it's kind of here's a roadmap on how you can do it. And then if you don't want to do all the work yourself, here's how you can invest with us. Is that kind of the structure?
I didn't even put that at all in there. I just gave everything we do, right? And then I put on there, like, come check, learn more on our website, learn more. Then through the podcast and website, what happened is the book funneled people down. And then people learn more about our strategy, and we're like, we love what you're doing. And then, the people are like, well, we don't want to do it ourselves. We can do it through you. And what I found was I took a very different approach than a lot of people. I said, I'm going to give everything away for free, but there's a certain level that people need to pay for, because you have two things. Either I need to learn more than can be distilled in podcast or books, things like that, or it's too complicated. I don't want to do it myself, which that was one of the things that I knew, by the way, when I wrote the book. I'm like, this is 10 years worth of work and mass expertise. It's not like somebody, I'm giving you every single piece of information, but there's a lot of people that say, I don't want to take 5 years to do it, right? So I'll give it to you myself. Then we started our podcast in like my inner circle, which then grew, because then I could say, hey, join here and we'll go even more in depth. And so people could come join our inner circle, where we just went and showed actual deals and statistics, and it worked well. And that was, we didn't hold anything back. So the catch was continue learning more and everything else with us. And then from there, we got deals, we got investors, we got all sorts of stuff. So people that said, I have a deal, but I don't know if I can pull it off, they called us up. And then we were doing deals. So it just kind of spurred into everything.
So the book sparked deal flow, sparked cash flow, or investments. And then it sounds like it also kind of branched off an education arm of the business.
Yep. And now we're doing, including wholesale deals. So because we understand value, we can go out and find deals, and then we can sell them to people that want those deals. So it also spurred off multiple other businesses as well.
That's cool. And so let's fast forward to I want to fast forward to the end, and then I want to come back and talk about the middle point. So you mentioned the business has tripled since then. What were do you have 2 or 3? I mean, we've talked about the lanes that they're growing, but you have kind of like tangibly the impact that you've seen from the book in terms of how it's grown the business, and maybe the biggest thing that's helped, and then maybe one surprising part that came about because of the book.
Yeah. So a tangible amount, when I wrote the book, I think we had about 1 million square feet. We have over 2 million square feet today, and we have 650,000 square feet in development and another 500,000 square feet under contract right now. So that is, in the next 3 months, we're at almost 3 million square feet. And we did that in 3 years compared to 10 years prior. So we doubled what we did in 10 years, in 3 years on actual square footage. So we're 3 times as big as we were in assets under management when we started. Then from there, the things that I think surprised me were the ancillary opportunities that popped up. So all of a sudden it was the other business lines. We actually rolled out and became a private equity company, which is a whole nother thing. So all of a sudden our work, what we were doing, everything, deals and opportunities got better. So our actual capital tripled, and the money that we were making. So that was all like, I knew it would grow, and I knew we'd get opportunities for it. I didn't realize to the magnitude though.
That's crazy. I want to get into how you did that in just a second. Backing up just a little bit. How did you find SPS and all of that? And why did you decide to work with us? Where were you at in your journey there?
Yeah, I was at a conference. It was a conference here in Boise, Idaho. By my email provider. They're going to kill me.
Craft and Commerce with ConvertKit.
ConvertKit. Thank you. Yep. So ConvertKit puts on a great meeting, and it's called Craft and Commerce here. And I was in leg braces and crutches, so I wasn't really traveling or doing a whole lot because I was still coming back from trying to come back from being paralyzed. So this was a local event, and I thought, I'll go there. So I used them as my email provider, but I met some of your people there, listened, and it was like, you know what? I've been thinking about doing this, so I need to buckle down and do it.
And why did you decide to say, hey, I'm going to get self-publishing schools help with the book?
So I a lot of the things, Chandler, that you talk about, I'm a firm believer in. Like the IP and what it can become and everything for me, I didn't want to sell that, right? I understand on a business sense, intellectual property, core assets, and what that'll mean in the future. And I was willing to say, even if somebody was going to give me a huge amount, but say we can sell 3 times the book sells, that's not nearly as important to me as everything that comes with it, the rights and everything else like that. So I said, listen, that's fine, but I'm not willing to do that. So, but like a lot of people, I didn't have the slightest clue where to start. And, you got to realize too, I'm dyslexic. So the idea of writing a book is a little humorous because I can't even spell. So it was like, I needed help.
That's awesome, man. Well, let's kind of fast forward to the marketing piece a little bit. I mean, it seems like the book is sold well. How have you sold so many copies of the book? What are the top 2 or 3 things that have worked?
Yeah, but top 2 or 3, a few things that I'd work. You guys talked a lot about getting out. You talked a lot about focusing on niches, things like that, right? Which I was a niche. I went all into that. First, my book wasn't actually going to be about self-storage. So it was going to be more open. It was going to be investing, things like that. But, you talk a lot about niches. So I said, hey, this is the way to go, which was 100% right.
Gosh, yes. That's so
not
cool.
even like a question whether that was right or not. And I dove hard into that niche. And then I went out and found where those people in that niche really congregated. And the biggest way that I did it was I went on to podcasts, and that really leveraged everything. Now, I messed up on a lot of things. I should have had more of a structure to capture that. And you guys talk about this, and I knew it, but I don't think I realized it's important. If I would have at first had my own podcast and had a much more clear direction for people, I would have gone way bigger, way faster. So that initial boost, it sold lots of books and it had lots of buzz and got me talking, but I didn't do a good job of having an ecosystem for that community yet. And that came afterwards. And that was a big fail. So the launching it and podcasts, everything else, that was huge. That went, I mean, it skyrocketed, and that was amazing. And focusing on the niche podcasts and things, that really, really worked well.
Cool. And so podcasts worked well. Anything else that worked well to sell a lot of copies of the book that you saw?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that I think did a really good job when we were doing, we would do podcasts, and then I would piggyback podcasts with Amazon's keyword marketing. And I think that did a good follow-up, and that really reimbursed. And I still run some keywords today. I don't run a lot. I don't need to run a lot. But
like Amazon ads you're talking about?
Yeah, Amazon ads. Yeah, Amazon ads. I don't do Google ads. I don't do other things like that. But setting up a landing page, though, as well, to convert, not just expecting people to come on Amazon, but convert with keywording me. So if you looked up me or you looked up self-storage, trying to have a landing page that had information into the book sell by. So piggybacking Amazon with my own landing page, and then starting my own podcast on top of doing guest appearances. It adds like a layer, like a compounding effect that allowed people to come in. It was somewhere for them to go off Amazon, on Amazon. Did some keywords for the Amazon ads to make sure that it captured any of those people, did podcasts, and then that traffic tried to get those people into my podcast and ecosystem. And then as they were continual listeners and learners, they would sell more copies, and they could go just straight to the site.
That's cool. And for those that are watching on the YouTube channel, I'll just do a quick share here. This is kind of cool. Exactly what you said. You Google how to invest in self-storage, and then you see this self-storage investing books, and then boom. And that's the power of SEO, right? And then I'm assuming this will click straight into, there you go. You get your author page, and then that'll click straight into the actual Amazon listing where people can check out the book, buy the book, all that stuff. So that's pretty cool. So we've got riches are in the niches. So niching down with your topic, which is something that made all the marketing more effective. After that, you've got starting your own podcast, doing podcast interviews. You got some Amazon ads, coupling that with keywords to rank for key terms that people might be searching for.
Another thing that I did was pricing. So
tell me more.
Yeah, I played with pricing, as in I did like you guys said, pre-launch. So I gathered emails and I tried to do all that stuff to get a pre-launch ready. And then before I went on all my podcasts, what I did was I launched the book, and I got, with my pre-launch, a lot of reviews. And then I hit the podcasting circuit, and I discounted the price. So from there, we hit a bestseller in like 3 categories for like 3 months. And so I took some time before to get a base work of reviews that were populating and building before I did the big launch. And then when I did the big launch, I made sure that it was cheap enough to where people would go and buy it. And that was a self-reinforcing thing, I think, on Amazon, and it just kind of took it to the top.
That's awesome. What I was going to ask you about that. So let's speak on that, the reviews piece. As of the time of recording this, you got over 460 reviews. What worked well? How'd you do it? How did you do it pre-launch and get so many reviews kind of as part of the launch? And then anything else that worked well?
So I did a few speaking events pre-launch where I had way more direct contact with individuals. And people would
Cool.
come, hey, I love it. I'd say, hey, here's my book. Would you go leave me a review? Right. Much more personal. So the pre-launch was way more personal than masses. I wanted really good quality reviews that people were going to talk in depth. Oh, I know AJ, all that kind of stuff, like really good, solid SEO on those reviews and things
Nice.
that Amazon were like, this is an organic, they've received copies. We know it. We can see them on KDP reading the book. So that's really important on Amazon. Really important, that verification of those reviews. And then after, what I did was, when I got people on the podcast and everything, I'd say, hey, come onto the podcast, right? Jump on there, leave reviews. And when we were just starting, I'm like, leave me a review. Let me know that you left me a review. I'd love to talk to you about it. I'd love to hear from you. And that was a little overwhelming, because then we had tons of reviews coming in and people reaching out. Hey, I'd left you a review. I'd love to talk to you about it. And I'm like, okay. So I started talking to just tons of people, and we had to end that because it was drowning me. And I was like, I know I said I'd talk to you, but I meant, like, I didn't think that there'd be 300 reviews in, a few months. So.
Oh, that's fun. Anything else that's worked well? Have you modeled that to do anything that's maybe a little bit more sustainable long-term for reviews, or anything else that you've done?
Yeah, following just follow-up campaigns through emails saying, hey, read the book, right? You hit them after a few weeks saying, thank you for reading the book. And I like to provide value when asking.
Yeah.
So you've read the book. Here is some here's podcast on these topics that you might like. Also, too, we do all of this stuff. We do all this information for free. Could you leave me a review for the book? Because that's what's being charged, and that helps me. And people respond to that. They really do.
That's great. Hey guys, if you want to implement on what AJ's talking about there, check out page 160 in the new book. It's called the Review Sweeper. Super smart automated email campaign. Page 160, 161. I've got templates that you could use to set up a review sweeper for your book. That's in the new book. Which have I sent you a copy of this yet?
Yeah, not the new one.
I'll send you a copy afterwards.
Awesome.
And so that's awesome. So that's how you got a lot of reviews. Let's talk about. Well, I want to talk a little bit more on podcast stuff. So obviously, you started your own podcast since then. I noticed that you also we're on the Bigger Pockets podcast, which that's a big one. How'd you land that? And any other tips for authors who are thinking about getting on podcasts? What's worked well for you?
Yeah. So I wish that I could say there was a much bigger grand strategy of getting on Bigger Pockets, but I kid you not. Here's how it happened. I was in Hawaii, and so I'd been in the hospital for months on life support. So I couldn't speak, nothing. I was paralyzed from the eyes down. And after we got out of rehab and I finally went home, my brother moved in to take care of me in home and everything. And so it had been like a harrowing 6 or 7 months, right? But we were happy I wasn't dead, everything else. I have 4 kids, and we're like, this has been probably traumatic for everybody watching dad die for the last 6 months. So maybe we should get dad out. We should take the kids to Hawaii for a while and, let them play. Yeah. So we got me in my wheelchair and everything, and we took the kids to the Disney resort in Hawaii. And I had a little scooter I could ride around on. And I was literally just riding on the road, and Brandon Turner walked past, and I was like, hey, do I know you? And I didn't really know who he was. He looked familiar. And we started talking, and we talked for a long time. And he was like, dude, do you want to come on the podcast, Bigger Pockets? I was like, sure. So I wish I could say there was a lot better grand strategy. Now, getting on other podcasts, it was a grand strategy. And I like to use the idea of looking at circle of influences. So even going directly towards an individual may not be your best mode of operation. You need to, lots of people, especially the higher up they are as far as either fame, things like that, they can't talk directly to everybody because they couldn't live if they did. So they're very referral driven, right? So I know that where I am, I don't accept anybody that emails and says, I want to be on your podcast. Only referral driven. I need somebody to tell me they're awesome, they're good. I won't go on other people's podcasts unless I know them and I already know people like you that are excelling or whatnot. So if I have somebody else that I like that maybe has a podcast or something, but it's not as big as me, and they come to me with a suggestion, I take it. So what I do is I go find all of the people that you said, let's say you're trying to hit one person. I find all of their core individuals in their lives, people that they network with or that they work with. And I get on their podcasts, I do things with them. And then after you build relationships, you can work that way. So take not a direct approach. Lots of times they go, it's just such a big podcast, I don't know. Go to events, find these people, talk to them, bring value, but it needs to be organic and natural. It needs to be real. It's not weird. That's not stalking. That's a natural, organic way to do it. You emailing somebody 50 times and then getting mad because they don't answer your emails, that's creepy. That's weird and stalking.
For sure. That's great. That's a great tip. It's so funny you mentioned bigger podcasts. I just finished this book a little bit ago, which is like a bigger pockets book. And I'm closing on my first home tomorrow. So I'm deep in the throes of a lot of, or I hope I'm closing on my first home tomorrow. But I'm deep in the throes of the real estate investing world. This reminds me of, do you know a guy named Hayden Crabtree?
I do know Hayden. Yeah. In fact, I'm partners with him on some stuff.
Okay. Are you guys partners on the, he's buying self-storage, I want to say in like where I grew up in South Carolina.
Yeah. So he buys self-storage and does self-storage in the South. But how I know him is because he created a real estate software to analyze real estate deals, which is incredible. So I've been bugging him to let me be a part of the software thing for a long time. And so we're collaborating on a bunch of stuff and putting that software in for the masses. So it's called My Stats. And I think that when you look at a lot of these things, like we're talking about right now, these organic conversations, people that are in these locations, right? This is how it happens. And a lot of people don't understand that when they've never really been in a position to where they can network with people that they're trying to get on. It's not just like, oh, well, why won't Joe Rogan have me on his podcast, right? Well, you get people that are end up talking, they know each other, they know something from there. We're talking about Hayden and my property stats, right? What he's got going on there. And that leads to something else. And I think that's how you should really approach it, networking. And that's something you got to get ready before you launch your book, right? If you're ready to launch your book 2 weeks before, you're trying to decide what podcast should I get on? Who can help me launch this? What influencers maybe can have me do it? Which I had a bunch of friends that have large followings that I had met too. I asked them if they would put it on their Instagram and they would talk about it, right? That's not something you do in 2 weeks. It's prepare for it.
For sure. And guys, if you're interested in learning more about Hayden's book and the process. So fun fact, Hayden is actually a self-publishing school student as well. He's been on the podcast. Check out the episode. I forget which episode number it is, but if you just search Hayden Crabtree Self-Publishing School, you can find that episode. He unpacks his book, Skip the Flip, done really well. He was also on the Bigger Pockets podcast. Like there's just so many synergies. It's fun to see. And you'll have to tell him I said, hey, next time you see him.
I will.
So, hey, we're kind of in the home stretch here. A couple final questions. You talked a little bit earlier about how the book has grown the business. Any other tips or things that you've learned on strategically using a book to grow your business? And maybe even especially for the people who are listening, who are thinking about using a book to grow their real estate investing business?
Yeah, I think, when you look at using books, it's important to have two ideas and hold them at the same time. Like one being what the purpose is. What's the purpose, right? And when I looked at the books that I was going to do on real estate investing, everything like that, it was really to drive self-storage. And it's like, well, then I should be, like you said, focus on the niche and write on self-storage. Okay. And then with the same thing though, I held in my hand that the book isn't an ask, meaning the book isn't saying just hire me. The book is there to produce the highest value and to give what the readers need to know and see right in it. That's what the purpose of the book is. Now, I need to understand and structure that in a way that the result is what I'm trying to achieve, right? And I think you can find people that fail, they either get one side or the other too much. Like, some people write a book and you're like, all that was a pitch fest. And then you get bad reviews, things like that, and it doesn't work. You can sell and provide value simultaneously. And you got to understand that when writing, because then it becomes evergreen for you. I mean, this has been, I don't know, it's at least a couple of years minimum, maybe 3 years I've produced it. We sell every single day. People come to my website every single day, the podcast, everything. And then they become loyal, raving fans. And, we just meet people and they're like, I read your book. It was, and look at the other books in the industry. This was another thing that I did. I wanted it to be different, stand out. If you're just another one on the shelf, there's nothing for anyone to talk about.
Yeah.
Right. There's no noise. You're just another person that wrote the exact same book. Even if it's the exact same subject or something, make it stand out. Put something different that people will talk about it.
Write a great book. Make it stand out. You already mentioned this previously, but I think a superpower behind your book is how niche specific it is.
Yes.
Because I know I am learning about real estate investing. Yes. But this is funny, as someone who doesn't know a lot about real estate investing, I'm kind of getting into this world. The first question I asked a bunch of people is, in my network, was, hey, if I'm looking to learn real estate investing, what books do you recommend? And then the first follow-up question from everyone who knew what they're talking about is like, what type of real estate investing? And depending on that, I'll recommend a book. And so 100%. Then you are positioning yourself as a category king within that subtopic, so that if someone's saying, oh, I'm thinking about investing in storage, or if I'm looking for long-term cash flow, buy and hold type with real estate investing, then I'm going to look.
Perfect example of this is, Ken McElroy. He's the guy, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Yeah. Yep. So him and Robert Kiyosaki do the real estate, and he actually owns the Rich Dad, Poor Dad publishing, all that kind of, right? I met him at dinner, I think it was a week ago. And, for a real estate guy, he's like it, right? Like, dude, yeah, right? And so I sit down and, I'm all of a sudden like a 12-year-old boy, like, oh my gosh, right? And so I go to shake his hand. And I'm like, hey, I'm AJ. He's like, AJ Osborne, you're that self-storage guy. And I'm like, I am. I'm the self-storage guy. So, but it was like that moment in my head, it was like this completely, that's what it was designed to do. That was the purpose. Yeah. That somebody looks and says, you're that guy. You're the self-storage guy. You're the flipping house guy. You're the whatever it is that you're writing a book on. When it gets over, what are they saying about the author? Yeah, he's the self-storage guy.
That's so great. The root, as we say, the root word of authority is author. You can't spell the word authority without the word author. And you're becoming authority on that topic by writing that book. Hey, final couple questions for you, AJ. What was the most helpful part of the process in working with us at Self-Publishing School with your book?
I think when I look at you guys, a compass. Okay. So I'm totally lost. It seems so overwhelming. I'm now in the middle of 2 other books. One that'll be launched here. I'm self-publishing another one in 2 months. And at first, like I say, I'm a dyslexic kid from Idaho. I'd never met anybody that had written a book. So what do I know about writing? Nothing. And it was like, it seemed so overwhelming, but then through you guys, it was just digestible steps, programs. It's like, here's what to do. Here's how to focus. Here's what to do it right. And that was game changer. I just needed a compass. Where should I go? How should I do it? And it made it in a way that wasn't overwhelming anymore. That's great. And that was kind of the push that I need. Because I think you guys do a good job. It shouldn't be overwhelming. It shouldn't be, it's not something to fear or anything. It's a process. And you guys have a really good process.
That's great, man. Well, hey, I'm gonna send you a copy of the new book. Check out the back few chapters on this as you're preparing to launch your next book. And then there's even chapter 24 will be helpful if you go back. There's probably some tweaks you can do to go back to the first book to optimize it a little bit better. Lots of tweaks for bringing in customers. So check out those 2 things. And then I don't know if you do this. We just rolled out a bunch of services. So we now do book covers, formatting, upload to Amazon, keywords, like a lot of that stuff. So if we can be helpful in any way, let us know. And then anyone who's thinking about publishing a book, we just announced this kind of internally a week or 2 ago. But this is a new thing, because I'm sure you saw this when you went through the process at first. It was like, that's the part where people get stuck or they're like, hey, I don't have time to do, like, can you guys just do this for me?
100%.
And so we do a lot of that
I think
stuff.
that's the one thing. If I said that I was disappointed with you guys wouldn't do enough for me. At the time, I'm like, can you guys do some more stuff for me?
You're in
So
that bucket of people who have over the years have been like, I will pay you more money. Please just
yes,
do it. And
please,
we've turned away so much business. So we're not doing that anymore. We're doing that. We're doing it now. So, hey, well, last question, AJ, what would be your parting piece of advice for the AJ from a few years ago, and all the other AJs out there who are thinking about writing their first book? Know what you know now.
I think first of all, I think for everybody, there's this just massive mental hurdle. And why would anybody want to listen to me? Like, why would anybody want to read my book? And I think you got to remember that people that write books, we put on like almost like this pedestal, right? It's just like they're just a normal person that had good expertise and or believed in what they were even talking about. It's not that they were a top expert in the world at all, right? There's always somebody bigger. There's always somebody better, always. But you are going to make the decision to share your knowledge, and that's great. And you should, and you don't have to be something that you're not, like, to do that. It's not. And I don't know. I don't know if that even makes sense. But like for me, that was weird. I'm like, I'm going to release this book, but who am I? I've never done anything like this before. And after I went through the process, now it doesn't even, I don't even think twice about it, but it's completely changed my business and also the way that I think about business and how to do it. So, yeah,
that's amazing. AJ, incredible. Guys, if you'd like to chat with my team and like AJ, work with us on your book, go to self-publishingschool.com/apply, book a call with the team. I know a couple of the guys on my sales team are love you and love your real estate investing stuff, and they've listened to your books and they told me about them. And so if you're listening to this, watching this, thinking, hey, I'd love to put a game plan together and maybe see about getting self-publishing schools help. Again, go to self-publishingschool.com/apply, book a call with the team. We'd be happy to help you and chat through your book, your goals, and next steps. All right, AJ, thank you so much, man. This has been so amazing. Where can people go to grab a copy of your book, to find out more about what you're up to and all that good stuff?
So you can go to Amazon, of course, or you can go to selfstorageincome.com. And for anybody that's a storage nerd, that is just where all the information, everything is. So selfstorageincome.com, or just Google AJ Osborne self-storage, and there's going to be too much that's going to pop up. So
cool. Well, guys, his book, The Investor's Guide to Growing Wealth in Self-Storage, check it out. Grab a copy if you're interested in this sort of thing. And it sounds like he's got a new book coming out soon. So stay tuned and grab that one as well. AJ, you're the man. Thank you so much.
Thanks.